Dear shorthand writers, this is English shorthand dictation number 164 and the dictation speed is 120 words per minute. Ready? Start. Sir, I cannot help saying that this government has been constantly encroaching upon the privileges of this house. My honorable friend, the Home Minister, is unfortunately not here, and I regret it because I do want to refer to one or two things for which he principally is responsible. I have noticed that ever since the Congress government has taken office, the Honorable Home Minister has insisted that this House has no right to pass upon any rules that the government might make under any particular law that this House may have passed. Sir, I say that this is an encroachment upon the authority of this House. I say that there are rules and rules. There are rules which merely carry out what is called the administrative policy. There are rules which are nothing else but a part of the law, and I claim and I insist that wherever a rule is a part of the law, then this House has not only the right to pass upon the original legislation, but it has the right to pass upon the rule as well. I do not understand how any executive government can appropriate this field to itself, but the Congress government has done it. Time in and time out, it encroached upon this privilege of the House. This lifting of money, this asking for a blank check is another encroachment upon the privileges of this House. I do not know what the situation now is, but I was quite familiar with what is known as the devolution rules, which were prepared under the old Government of India Act, and I think my honorable friend, the Finance Minister, will bear me out that one section of the devolution rules included what is called the Constitution of the Finance Department. It was one of the cardinal principles then recognized under the old Government of India Act that the Finance Department ought not to be a transferred department. The reason given was a very substantial reason for not treating the Finance Department as a transferred department. The Finance Department was intended to be the watchdog. The Finance Department was intended to scrutinize all expenditure that was put forth by any particular minister in charge of any particular portfolio. It was intended that one of the principal functions of the Finance Department was not only to see whether the sum asked for any particular purpose was necessary and could be granted, having regard to the financial position of the province, but whether the grant asked was properly itemized. I am sure that although the old Government of India Act has ceased and the devolution rules framed under that act are probably no longer law, the principles enunciated in those devolution rules must be abiding for all time. Ever since finance came to be recognized as an important part of the machinery of control which the legislature has forged over the executive, it has always been accepted that no minister shall place before the legislature a demand for any lump sum without specifying the particular services, the particular items which are supposed to be included in that demand. The reason is twofold. The House must know what are the details on which funds are being spent. Secondly, it is necessary for the Audit and Accounts Department to know how the money granted by the House has been spent. It is something which is quite inexcusable that this government should have had the audacity to come forward before this legislature and merely say that they want rupees 31 lakhs for spending on certain items, about the propriety of which the House has never decided, and as to the details of which the government itself has not made up its mind. I say it is audacity. Now, coming to the budget itself, I do not propose to go into the details of the different items of which this budget is composed. That would take me too long. Nor do I think the general discussion is the occasion on which one should go into the details of the expenditure. I propose to confine myself to the general aspects of the budget, the broad problems with which we are faced, and the ways and means adopted by the finance minister to deal with those problems. Sir, the question I want to ask is this: what are the liabilities, responsibilities which the Congress government proposes to take upon its shoulders? Let us realize what our total liabilities are. Sir, it is a small matter whether these liabilities are such that we can meet them tomorrow, or whether it will take a long time for us to meet these liabilities. That is altogether a different question. It is quite essential and in fact fundamental question that those who are sitting on this side and those who are sitting on the other should know once for all what we propose to undertake with respect to the welfare of the people of this province. Therefore, it is very necessary that we should take stock of what the ultimate position is going to be, apart from the question how we meet and how soon we shall meet it. Now, it is quite clear that traditionally, taking things as they stand in this province up to this day, governments have undertaken their responsibilities and duties, which certainly cover such fields as education, public health, medical relief, and to a certain extent water supply. But governments have never fulfilled these responsibilities. These are admittedly the functions of the government. I am glad to say that the Congress ministry, when it came in office, issued a statement which is called a Statement on the Labour Policy of the Government. I would like to remind my honorable friend of that statement because he has altogether taken no note of what the government has stated in the press communique. Referring to that statement, I find that the government has unequivocally accepted the fact that these are not the only duties which this government would look upon as its obligations. The Congress government has accepted that over and above these, there are other duties which the government must undertake. These duties are unemployment benefit, sickness insurance, old age pensions, maternity benefits, and premature death benefits to dependents. Therefore, we have got to start with this position that my government, which claims to have the reins of office in its hands, must look upon these duties as part of its functions. The question is, what are going to be the total liabilities of the government if the government were to decide upon discharging these obligations? As I said, it matters nothing. It does not solve the problem whether we are in a position to do this today or not. It is quite essential that we ought to know what our duties are and what is the liability in which we will be involved ultimately. Sir, taking all these things into consideration, I would like even at the closing of the debate, some kind of estimate from my honorable friend to tell us what exactly would be the liability thrown on the revenue of this province if we are to undertake the discharge of those liabilities in their fullness.